Hello, everyone. We're back with episode 58 for Truth or Theory. I'm not sure what episode this is going to be for Propaganda Report and the Macroaggressions with Charlie Robinson, but it's going to be a fun episode. We're talking about the 2020 election and the possible end of the world. Welcome to the podcast, JP, Charlie, Monica, and Brad.
How's it going?
Thanks for having us. Let's get crazy.
Everybody's
Can't
drinking.
believe you're wearing that shirt. Your shirt's triggering me, man. That flag.
I'm sorry, man. I got it at the Goodwill.
I was going to wear my Truth or Theory shirt, but I couldn't resist wearing my Ron Paul shirt from the 2008 campaign.
Oh, snap. I was going to wear the Propaganda Report shirt, but I was like, I don't want to waste it on when you're actually on. I'll do it.
That's it. And I thought the same thing. I was like, we have a themed event here. I'm not going to use it then. But the funny thing is my shirt, which is from the 2008 Ron Paul presidential campaign, it says on it, who is Ron Paul, which is a play on who is John Galtz, but it's also pointing out that nobody knew who Ron Paul was. And that was in 2008. By 2012, he was getting college kids to burn dollar bills and, chant his name like he was a rock star. And now we can look back and say that was the last chance.
Well, I saw him at in Acapulco the last 2 years, this earlier in 2020 and also 2019. And it's funny because you get a group of 3,000 anarchists and, guys that hate the government, and you march up a 80-year-old white guy, Republican, who spent 2 decades in Congress. And that should theoretically be the least popular guy in the room. But when he gets up there, man, it is madness. It's standing ovations and clapping. Wow. And he comes out and he just has the crowd, and it's because he had this commitment to logic and reason, and he didn't get he tried not to keep it political and vote just because his party was. He seemed like what you would want your politician to be, and he was consistent and a decent human being and had been a doctor and everything. Like, he was the perfect guy. And to get, to have 3,000 anarchists love this guy, I mean, like godlike, it is a testament to what you can accomplish when you are a decent and good human being who looks out for people and does what they say they're going to do.
That really is a testament. That's a very well put, because he would be the first person to admit that he does not fit the mold of charisma or the glad handy thing. And I actually would bet that people who knew him in the kind of glad handing world wouldn't like him as much as the people who knew him privately, like where I think that most politicians is the opposite.
Yeah.
And he was the first to kind of admit that he, like, I wish I could say things a little more clearly, yada, yada. But, and it's funny because when it's also a testament to the value of content. So when I first did radio, people would tell me they would tell you how to say it, how to do it, how to cut out, how to tease, all this kind of stuff, how to build a whatever story. And my boss said to me once, he's like, look, don't be confused by all this stuff. 90% of this is content. It's just, do you have the content? And I feel like that's the way it should be. And that is the way it is with him. And people really respond to it. So it's like sex in movies. They're like, oh, that's what people want. Not really, because Breaking Bad was the best TV show or the most popular TV show ever. And HBO rejected it because it didn't have enough sex in it. So it's obviously not a pull, it's a push. Same thing with political, politicians who are full of it. That's a push. That's not a pull.
Yeah.
Right. Although violence is sex for some people, and Breaking Bad had lots and lots of violence in it.
Touche.
That's a good point. That is a good point.
I didn't know HBO passed on it. I would have thought that would be something right up their alley.
Yeah, there wasn't enough sex in it. And I guess you could write the sex into it, but they didn't.
Yeah.
They just went to AMC and stuff.
The very first episode, the pilot episode, they had a lady topless in the second story. And that was the only time they ever showed nudity in the whole series.
There was?
So, yeah, in the pilot, they were trying to pitch it to different networks. That makes sense.
I didn't know.
Bryan Cranston's a great actor too, but sex appeal, I don't think, is on the top of his features.
No.
Maybe in the Seinfeld days as the dentist.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Him and Elaine.
Yeah. Charlie, it's weird having you on our Zoom call, man. We were used to having you in studio. It's kind of bizarre.
I know. Well, we'll do that again. for
Let's
sure.
talk about
Yeah,
your new book, man. You got a new book coming out, or is it out already?
it's out.
Oh, snap.
Yeah, I just sent it to you earlier. I an hour ago or so you can check it out. Yeah, I'll come back on. We can talk about the book.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
We have to get a signed copy. We have the other one up here, which I don't know if it's signed or not. We have to get you to sign that one as well.
Is it not? I think
don't
well,
Maybe
for
you did, I
sure.
don't know. You might have put "Love, Charlie."
I'm going to. I will definitely do that. And then a big lipstick kiss on it. Mhm. Yeah. What do you, I had this conversation a couple weeks ago with Whitney Webb. We were talking about I was just telling her to envision, just paint this picture in your mind, if you will, that it is the inauguration of 2017 and Donald Trump is getting sworn in, and you're Hillary Clinton, Tom Perez, the head of the DNC, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, maybe Brenda Snipes, and all those criminal, whoever else, Podesta, all these guys sitting around this table, and they're going, okay, this can never happen again, right? This we underestimated this guy. Maybe it was our fault for not taking him seriously enough. I mean, we kind of wanted him to run. We thought we'd beat him. Maybe we should have tried harder. Maybe whatever. We've got 4 years to fix this, to make sure that this never happens again. If we put our heads together, we come up with this plan. And you flash forward to right now where we are, and Joe fucking Biden is the best idea you could come up with in 4 years. I mean, seriously, I don't know if he's going to turn out to win this or not. I mean, I guess if he wins, then the ends justify the mean, but you're just squeaking by then.
It's possible the goal was to just squeak by so that you could have conflict.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah.
think about that.
The landslides, I just don't think are in the cards, because conflict is always the top priority, is keeping people torn apart. And I think Kamala is. I don't. If Biden were to win, and again, I don't think that's. I don't know if that's how this is going to play out or not, but I don't think he's president. Maybe not even a day. They could even really flip it on its head if he were to win and say, all right, we're going to have to remove Biden because we just discovered all this Bunter Hyden stuff. That's what I call his son. And we can't have someone whose son is compromised. So we're going to have Kamala come in and be president. So maybe they're keeping that quiet until then.
That's very interesting. I like that.
Then make Hillary the vice president.
Yeah, there you
Oh,
go.
God.
On her way to jail.
I tell you, if I were
Hashtag
Kamala
trust the
Harris,
plan.
I wouldn't be waiting until the last minute to sign my life insurance policy. I'll tell you that much.
Dude, right?
Yeah, it's some Game of Thrones shit.
Yeah,
Still
yeah.
wouldn't have the first female president title, though. Kamala would still have it on her.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's
That's
true.
crazy.
Shoot.
How crazy would it be if we have 2024 Chelsea Clinton and Ivanka Trump running?
Oh, good Lord.
AOC,
Or AOC.
Stacey Abrams,
And Michelle
Oh my
Obama
gosh,
in the mix.
What if? No, to carry that on. What if they slot in Stacey Abrams as the VP?
That's a possibility as well. You know,
She'll be the
Stacey
Gerald
Abrams is trending
Ford.
right now. She was trending a little while ago because they're saying if the Democrats come back and win Georgia, because Trump's suing now about the count in Georgia because it's getting closer and closer, then Stacey Abrams needs to be handed the Democrat Party. Those are the types of tweets that are going on right now because of Georgia. And she will take a central. Her voice is about to get amplified again here in the coming weeks.
Yeah. Just so everyone knows who's listening too, that I'm not sure when every platform is going to release this, but this is being recorded on Wednesday night. So
The day
everybody's
after
aware.
the election.
We're all in our
The day after
collective
the
bunkers.
Where we still, maybe we should tell people where we're at in the
Yeah.
count.
Yeah,
It's-
that's a good idea.
As far as I know, correct me if I'm wrong, it's the outstanding non-attributed electoral votes come from Pennsylvania, Georgia, North Carolina, Arizona, and Nevada. And I didn't write this down, so it's going to be from memory. There's, I think, 20 in Pennsylvania, 6 in Nevada. How many in Georgia, Binkley?
How many electors is 15?
And what about
16 in Georgia, 11 in
16,
Arizona.
yeah, 16. That's right.
11 in Arizona, and North Carolina is also a big
It's
number.
15 in North Carolina.
Yeah, 15 in North Carolina.
And
So-
Georgia is at 98% count right now, and the lead has dwindled down to 49.7 to 49%. And
Does it show Joe Jorgensen's count
like
there?
no, it's like less
I'm
than
not
30,000
kidding.
now.
She got like the lowest votes of any libertarian ever, and it's still the deal breaker.
Yeah.
It's still the deal breaker. So they can still throw libertarians under the bus for saying, like, I just want to register my protest. Your vote is the most important vote.
It looks like it's about 35,000 vote difference. Trump leading in Georgia.
Yeah, it's looking like Nevada has been stuck at 75%.
Yeah, what's that?
How much they've counted for, and they've already said, well, we're not going to get another batch in until tomorrow. So what is this, American Idol? We got to wait another day,
Why
and another
did they
day.
do that?
I don't know. To draw up for the drama, I presume, and it looks like it might come down to Nevada, at least in. I don't know that I believe any of it, to be honest with you, but at least in the way that it unfolds publicly. And of course, they tweeted that video out that I sent you, Monica, of a guy who they were holding some press conference, and this guy comes through in the background with a mask kind of down on his nose and a shirt that says something like beer and guns or something. I don't know, some ridiculous shirt that he's wearing with camouflage shorts. Just the most ridiculous. It's every horrible stereotype of a conspiracy theorist, QAnon, Trump supporter that you could possibly imagine. And he's just going, the Biden crime syndicate, just screaming like just a complete. I mean, I think it was probably an activist that was put up to it and went a little too far with their stereotype. But we're seeing.
I think he's an actor.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
He seems like an actor.
Yeah.
But what? Sorry, I cut you off.
Yeah, it's just we're seeing more and more of this stuff because there's people in Detroit as well who they're calling it stop the count protest on one side. On the other side, they're calling it privileged white people who are intimidating, voter intimidation and interfering with the election, and because they're boarding up the windows in the count centers in Detroit. So that they can't see the people that are counting, and they're demanding to be able to watch it. And the conflict has started to emerge that I think we might have anticipated some of it last night, but that was too early. Starting to come out tonight. The fights.
This can't end well. There's no outcome that's not going to cause chaos.
Wall Street Journal says that Biden right now has 264 called.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did we just say that?
That's what I'm seeing
I
here.
Missed that. Michigan,
that's the
Wisconsin
Nevada.
called
If
for
Trump
Biden
wins Georgia, Carolina, and Pennsylvania, which he's leading in right now, then Nevada will be that final 6.
Well, he must have to win everything because 264 is one state away from 270, any one of those states.
Yeah.
So he has to win them all. Which is not
Trump has to
beyond
win Nevada also.
The possibility. But the other thing that's, I actually think, well, I mean, I wouldn't say it's more important, but it might be more important legislatively, is that the Congress, Democrats lost some ground in Congress and did not take Senate. So everybody's, all thinking people's favorite scenario, gridlock, that would be great. And I personally don't think Trump was going to veto anything. So my worst case scenario was the legislatures all go to the Democrats and Trump rubber stamps everything. So it doesn't look like that can happen. And maybe we'll get some protests going if Biden is the one overseeing $4 trillion deficits and emergency orders that justify state by state lockdowns. I mean, it is possible that my call for a march on DC could actually be answered by some of these bigwigs who dragged me down there for Obamacare. This is so much bigger, and maybe they were chilled because they didn't want to diss Trump. I don't know.
Is it possible to have a tie in this situation?
Yes. Well, I don't know about this situation.
How many electors are there? Oh yeah, not in this situation. No.
269 was a
Not
scenario
now.
that a lot of people had talked about where it would go to a contingent election. I haven't done the numbers. I saw an article earlier in the day that said it was still possible, but I don't know if it is now.
It's not possible now because if he got 264,
right? Yeah, unless Arizona is changed or Wisconsin.
Well, if they go back and take that back, but 264 plus anything is 270 or more.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
So.
Wow.
For Alaska, how many is in Alaska? 3.
Yeah, 3 for Alaska.
But it was called. Oh, you're saying if one of those ones don't. Yeah. Gotcha.
How much is
everybody's
Hawaii?
reporting something different.
Yeah,
So-
I know. They're all different.
Yeah,
It's
everything-
I'm
crazy.
on the Journal.
A disaster.
I went to CNN, not because I believe they're telling the truth. Let me just make sure I'm
Yes.
clear about that. I just want to see what sort of lies they're telling. They've got one score. I'm on Fox News right now. They've got it 264 Biden, 214 Trump. With
Right.
Arizona
That's with
called for
Arizona. Yeah.
Biden.
Mhm,
But
right.
but on CNN, they have Arizona is not called. So what is it? Like, what are we
That's how it
doing?
was last night. They had those 7 that Twitter named the 7 official sources that could report on the
How
count,
very
so-
Gestapo of them.
right. Yeah.
I
I
know.
was switching through all of them, and at no point during the entire evening did they have the same numbers. They were
Right.
all different the entire night.
So that just goes to the fact that facts and evidence have absolutely no bearing on what you're allowed to believe or support. They're training
Zero.
us to be like to disconnect our respect from our critical thinking.
Yeah, that we are being taught to not we are outsourcing our thinking to the media. We're not allowed to see things. Remember when Jake Tapper said, "Well, you can't look at that. That's the media can look at the files. But if you look at those files, you'll go to jail. But we in the media have the right to." I was like, "Get the fuck out! What are you talking about here, man? we can look at the information too. You don't have some special powers or anything. You're the mainstream media. You're pathological liars."
Yeah, that
And-
sounds
and-
like Tapper's argument for the Hunter Biden stuff.
Yeah.
Here's how he reported on it. He said, Hunter Biden, I don't even want to say what the accusations are because they're so abhorrent and they're disinformation. That's it. There's your argument. They're abhorrent. You can't even tell the public what they are. They just need to trust him that they're disinformation.
Jeez.
You've really gotten me to detest him, Binkley. I
detest
can't
him.
look at him. Like he always has this super miserable look on his face with his eyebrows knit together and his head tilted.
Yeah. He does that
Even
look
when he
very well.
likes the person. He was just talking to Amy Klobuchar, and who I always think is some like hockey. You know, isn't Klobuchar like a real hockey name? I just keep thinking
She
she's
seems
like
like a
the
hockey mom.
goalie on some hockey team. But he was talking to her, and he says, "I hear your husband had COVID," and I literally because he had that face on, I just could not stop laughing. And then guess what? She could not stop laughing. It was actually bizarre. She was like cracking up, and I'm thinking, it's okay for me to do that, but you're supposed to be hook, line, and sinker anyway.
Maybe she had an edible before she went on.
She might have been. She didn't even
Maybe.
wear any makeup. My husband was like, wasn't she running for president? Like, she just stopped wearing makeup. Like, she completely got. Is she wearing sweatpants right now? maybe it's like the COVID thing where it's just like, well, I'm trapped in my house. I don't have any makeup here. You know, like as if they don't have Amazon, or like when Stephen Colbert can't get his hair cut or
Yeah, he's got the
shaved.
shaggy hair.
Yeah,
Jack's
like
got the
what's his-
beard.
Yeah, Dorsey can't
The
shave.
Taliban
I've been stuck. Corona.
Stuck on this island in my
I can't-
mansion
All right, I can't
without
find
access
a
to running water or razors.
or Amazon. I can't.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do.
Well, listen, if Amy Klobuchar had done that during her campaign, she
Hey,
would have been a
yes!
hell of a lot more likable
Totally.
than a stapler throwing maniac that she is with no personality other than that. I mean, shit, I will take sweatpants and no makeup and
Totally.
tell me the truth
And
over.
laughing at the whole, my husband's been lazing around for 2 weeks. Just, you know, he knows more about this election than I do because he's not functioning in any way. Just cracking up. Yeah, no, it's much better. I think they all let their hair down, so to speak. The pressure is off because what more can you do, I guess, but sue. But can we talk about, let's just take a little survey. Who do we think it's going to go for Biden, Trump? Like, does anybody still think Trump's going to get it? What do we think, guys?
I'm still holding hope that Trump's going to get it just because I like seeing people cry.
Fair enough. At least you have a
it's-
good reason.
Yeah.
JP?
I would like to see Trump come through. I'm super nervous about all of Biden's Green Act deal and things like that, mostly because of what I do for work and just the amount of money that it's going to cost in the end. It's going to hurt everybody.
I think we'll
I
be owned
would-
by
I've-
China.
I would have a rebuttal to that, JP, after we survey. Say that again, E. Willie?
I said I think he's going to get us owned by China. Biden.
Biden?
Yeah.
Okay. How about you, Charlie? What do you think is going to happen, and what do you want to happen?
I think that they're going to give it to Biden. I don't want that to happen. I'm not saying I'm not a fan of Trump. I don't love his stuff, but I have found myself over the last couple of months in a very unusual position of defending him against the insanity of the media and the left. They have come completely unhinged, and they are just making stuff up, and they're so disingenuous and such a bunch of fucking liars. And I always grew up thinking that that was like more of the compassionate side, you know, like the right was more like, hey, listen, like pull yourself up from your bootstraps or don't, like, I don't care.
Exactly.
And the left was more like, hey, let's help everybody out. Like, we, you know, hang on a second. We're human beings. Let's help each other out. The left is now, if you don't believe every single thing that they believe, then you're a fucking Nazi and you're this and you're that. And it's like, dude, you guys are disgusting to me.
Yeah.
And you're making me defend somebody that I find reprehensible in Donald Trump. And I'm defending him against you guys because you're actually acting worse than the things that he's doing. And I don't like the concept. I mean, I don't like presidents. I don't trust the government. I mean, if you've read my books or listened to any of the podcasts I've done, I don't like any of them.
You know what they're up to.
Right. They're all a bunch of criminals. It's just a matter of degree. And we're voting on what flavor of insanity we want. But I'm telling you right now, I have found myself pulling for Donald Trump.
That used to happen to me with George W. And that guy gave us curly light bulbs. Like, I do not like that guy. But they were so ridiculously unfair in the news that they got me, who has never been a part of one of those parties. And when they like went bananas that he didn't get the popular or whatever his story was. And I remember thinking, please God, some logic, because you don't aim for the popular. I lived in Texas at the time. Nobody voted in Texas because they knew it was going to be for Bush. So you already probably lost 1 million votes. You can't have the popular vote ad hoc. So anyway, I got that. But I would still want to respond to JP. But first, let's hear Binkley. What do you think? What do you want? And what do you expect?
I think that it's either going to be society is about to collapse, and I don't know who's going to be. I think this could be the beginning of the end of the American empire, the way that this because if neither side accepts it, then it could break out into some sort of conflict, and who knows what happens after that, or Trump. I think it's either Trump or there's some sort of
what do you want?
Civil conflict that happens. And what I want to happen, I mean, a choice between Biden or Trump, I don't like or dislike either one of them. Like, I dislike things that they do. I think that the whole Biden thing with his son is very, very, it's very corrupt. Not even just the fact that there's potentially underage people associated with what's going on, but also the fact that he would be compromised. A crackhead who puts himself on camera pulling his wang out in front of an underage person has probably done a lot of other things that are easily compromisable by other countries. And the person, his father, can be controlled through that. So I would have to say Trump.
Interesting.
Monica,
okay.
There you go.
Sorry, I disappeared for a second. Technical difficulties. So, okay, I would just say, I just wanted to respond to JP, and people who listen to my show already know I think this. So I coined a term, the contrary law of democracy, which is the other side can never bring you what you're most afraid of. Like, it's going to take a Republican to give you gun control. It took a Republican to give you $4 trillion deficits this year and countrywide lockdowns. It just took a Republican in the White House to keep the right in their seats while this stuff happened. And Trump, the biggest loser industry-wise today, when it looked like Biden was going to win, was infrastructure stocks. So infrastructure expected Trump to roll in infrastructure, and any infrastructure spending is going to be in the service of that Green New Deal. He would do it. And the reason I know that is that, why I think that strongly, is that the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which he ran on defeating and didn't sign, is word for word in many respects and majority item by item the exact same as the USMCA. So this idea that he's really an enemy of China or that kind of trade stuff there was a good analysis by the University of Toronto on Trump's actual trade policy, and is it kind of different from the Obama era stuff or the same? And as far as the USMCA goes, it's absolutely squarely in that kind of Democrat mold. So I think that he's, a Manchurian candidate or just whatever, but I'm so cynical about how pathological our government is. Like it's a true pathocracy, that I feel like the opposite guy will be restrained by the people and your guy will not. And they all work for the same people and they'll get away with more. But in the end, we'll end up in the same welfare, warfare, super state that we've always been in. But anyway, what do you think?
What's your prediction?
What do I think? I mean, all along, I thought it was Trump because he's so useful. I mean, he's so distracting. He induces conflict. Remember, I think we have a pathocracy. So the powers that be want the guy who's going to make it the most uncomfortable, the most conflict. Conflict is the health of the state, I'd like to say. And so I was totally convinced. I'm still, I haven't taken it off the table that if Biden comes in, it might calm things down a little bit. And nobody who wants to make money out of this or wants to run the show or implement the Great Reset or any of that stuff wants us to have calm. They want us to have conflict. So, so I don't know, but I'm not writing Trump off.
Interesting.
Yeah, he's a lightning rod of conflict, and you have to build up that lightning rod again if you get rid of him. So keeping him in place would, I think, be beneficial to the divide
your
and conquer
idea
people.
That this could be implementing a civil war, now that's some conflict.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've been worried about this push towards escalating or geographically spreading out these riots. I mean, they've been sort of focused in Portland and Seattle and Minneapolis and places like that, and Wisconsin, but like I've been concerned about them, like not organically breaking out, but being made to break out everywhere all at once, so that the next call is to the United Nations to come in. Because if that happens, we're really in trouble. And as these things go, the problem, reaction, solution method, you get to the part where we're begging for the UN to come in, and they say, well, okay, if you asked for it, as Jake Tapper for 7 months softens us up with, should we allow the UN to come in here? Should we, let's talk about this. Let's talk about, the works that, and after just months and months of hearing that, next thing you know, the American people are like, I think we should have the UN come in. I mean, they're our best hope to calm this thing down. And then boom, we've walked right into a prison.
Instead of just restoring the 10th Amendment and bringing it down, you're right.
That's the Russian interference narrative. They bring that in all the time. That hasn't gone away. That is perfect for this, because if Trump does get in, that will inevitably come up again. The voter suppression, the Russian interference narrative, and a second time, a large portion of the public will be convinced that Russia has taken the White House, and therefore a foreign country has invaded and taken over half of the public and the White House. So that justifies this call to the UN to come in. So I completely agree.
So say the UN does come in, did they just, we got martial law and they take all the guns and all that, the whole nine? No,
they come in a peacekeeping capacity at first, directing traffic and bringing in supplies and making sure and running hospitals and all that good stuff. And then it switches. And then the next thing you know, they've all got guns. They'll condition you into this. They'll ease you into this. These are peacekeepers. These are the people you see in Somalia and Bosnia after the bombs go off. These are the people helping. And then we'll get that whole propaganda operation going in the mainstream media for 6 months, a year, until everybody is just like, hey, these are the good guys. And then before too long, they'll they'll be armed as they are around the world. And then they'll do what they always do. Then the rapes will start, which they always are involved in any foreign country that they go in to secure. So unfortunately, there's that disgusting component of it. And who knows what could happen.
Does anybody can think of kind of the biggest, most first world country the UN has ever gone in? So I'm trying to think that would it be like just too much of a leap? I guess if we asked them to come in, that would be different.
Yeah, but
unlike others.
I mean, we are who we are. I mean, we all know how Americans are. I don't know if they would let that fly too far.
I hope not.
I think it would break out into a full-blown war against them before we let that kind of thing happen.
I hope that's the case, but sure. We're still walking around in masks. We're talking
extremes. Yeah, we're talking like if the Civil War thing.
Yeah.
If there's no resolution here, if Biden and Trump can't agree who won, they both have their factions, and Trump's caricature is perfect for the guy who won't take no for an answer. And he's got all these people who I think most of this, or if not all of the militia type vibe that's around him that would foster a counterbalance to what seems much easier to gin up on the left. His character could call that into action. I mean, I could see that. I mean, they certainly seem to be building up. Say it again.
How many times did they say that in the media after that debate? Stand down and stand by.
I bought this shirt at Goodwill. Don't make me go to Salvation Army and get some camo. Wild. $5 shirt, guys. Look at it.
Goodwill's got some great deals, man. You gotta watch out. It might be COVID all over it, though.
Oh yeah, it has it.
Yeah.
We got moths from Salvation Army, so.
Did you really?
I basically had to move because we had wool carpets.
Wow.
And my daughter got a sweater and she never told me. And then they were just everywhere.
That's the unforeseen cost of a Salvation Army purchase right there. You have to move your entire house.
Yeah, you have to put it in a plastic bag and then smuggle it into your...
First time you wash it, it's going to have purple stars and stripes.
It's already been washed. I didn't buy it from Goodwill and wear it without washing it. I'm not a monster. It feels like a tablecloth. It's very uncomfortable.
I think that if these maniacs want to kick off a civil war in this country, if that is the strategy that they want to employ, then they could do it. They could do it exactly how you're talking about it, by not declaring a winner and having, or both sides declaring that they won. Trump has already been well in advance painted. The stories have been systematically coming out about how, well, if he loses, he's not going to leave. And so everyone's kind of pre-programmed to be like, yeah, he does seem like the type of guy that wouldn't leave. He does seem like a jerk about something like that. I could envision that. And so they're already painting the picture of him like being a tyrant that refuses to leave. And then they could paint Joe Biden as the guy that rightfully won and is trying to take back this country. And these people are trying, once the mainstream media gets a hold of people, listen, they would, if the media told the public that the coronavirus only goes at like the 4-foot level, you'd have half the people in the grocery stores crawling.
Yeah.
So they'll believe anything that you tell them to believe. And if they want to start a civil war and they say Donald Trump lost, he knows he lost, he refuses to leave, he's decided he's going to be president forever, and he's got this militia of Proud Boys and Boogaloo Boys and all these guys, and these guys are state funded and they're militia. Oh my God, they could whip people into a frenzy with that shit. And Absolutely. They're not above doing it. So if that is, if we don't get some sort of clarification on who the president is in a reasonable amount of time, and I'm not sure what that is, but let's just say that less than a month, then we're going to be all really on edge, and businesses aren't going to be able to plan, ahead, doing their forecast. They need some sort of certainty to one way or the other. They need to know where they're going to be going to plan it out. And so it just has a very disorienting effect on everybody when there's no decision made. And I could see that being that in conjunction with COVID round 2 being this sort of thing, unemployment kicks in. Holy shit. You have the
Evictions.
recipe for disaster there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was
is a nightmare.
surprised the market was up.
Yeah.
I was surprised that the market would be up when there was still that kind of uncertainty. Weird, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
it
is
is.
that is weird.
That is weird. I never really thought about
Don
it.
Lemon last night or 2 nights ago was on CNN with Cuomo when they do their little pass off. They do that. Cuomo passes off with Anderson Cooper, and then he passes off with Don Lemon. He flirts with both of them.
Totally.
And during that, Lemon was talking about how he finally had to make the decision to cut off his Trump friends, to get rid of them. And he said he tried really hard. He tried to get them over, but he just couldn't pull them out of that cult. And so it's time to just get rid of your Trump friends, to cut them off. And then I started hearing friends of mine in the theater community whose progressive friends cut them off and started saying similar things that I heard Don Lemon say. And I realized, it's Don Lemon behavioral signaling. And that goes to, I think, what you're saying there, Charlie, it's telling part of the public it's time. Cut your Trump friends off. You can no longer deal with them.
I saw a little ad targeting teens that said, when someone says, let's just agree to disagree. And it was a picture of a teen with like her mom in the background. It's too late for that. And I was like, dude, you can't,
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm seeing memes on Instagram right now too, all over about them saying basically like if your friend doesn't vote with you, basically, shit, I can't think. I drank too much.
Right? Isn't that annoying? That's why.
Yeah, if they don't vote with you, then if they're okay voting for someone that hurts your friends or hurts people in the community, they're not really your friend. They're basically already starting these little divisions to like, hey, cut loose your part of your family or cut loose that group of friends.
Well, everything
teams wearing jerseys.
Right.
They try to make everything life and death. So my mom's a big anti-abortion. She prays. She stands on the corner with a rosary and she prays. She doesn't get arrested. She doesn't harass people, whatever. She just prays, attend abortion. She's 91. She's little cut out gloves and stuff. But like for her, it's a life or death thing. It's about saving lives. And that's why she's a single issue voter. And they try to make, and my mother really, that's her thing. But they try to make every issue like it's a life or death, end of the world, good versus evil, or every election or whatever. And in my opinion, it's the opposite, that the same Klaus Schwab is tapped into both sides, or Soros or Warren Buffett or Bill Gates or whatever. If you can pull and Trump was bailed out by Rothschild and Soros's, his father made all the money going through the government. He got a special kind of backdoor to getting a casino. I mean, this guy's as connected as anybody else. And you can always trace higher and higher if you get far enough up to kind of the same people. So it's actually less important than ever. But if it is more important than ever, then we have a system that it's untenable. And that, I think, is where they want us to be. I think they want us to finally say, or a lot of people, if Biden loses. That's why I keep thinking Biden loses. And maybe this whole thing is to make it seem so close, to really freaking get people so close they can taste it. But if Biden loses, then they can turn around and get a lot of people to call for a regime change, a paradigm shift. And like Charlie was saying, they're gonna want to upsource. First of all, and Trump, I hold responsible for this, they're knocking out the pegs on every single state right issue. Everything is going to be removed from the states, the electoral college, all that stuff, policing, education, healthcare, welfare, everything is going to be knocked out. And eliminating state and local tax deductions was a sure signal of that. So you get rid of that. You can just keep upsourcing until you get to the UN, rather than, so like I've heard libertarians say, well, it's good. Let them give up on this system. I've heard a lot of people say that, and I got it. collapsitarians or whatever, but it seems to me impossible to expect the way the propaganda works that gets everybody's minds, like the COVID thing, like you were saying, people will be crawling around on the floor. Like the propaganda machine is completely intact, and they're not going to downsource. They're not going to restore the 10th Amendment. They're not going to secede. That's the problem, is that they're bringing us to the brink where it's clear the system doesn't work, which they are doing on purpose, because the system was actually working. It was actually working. I didn't like it, but it was actually working. And they had to pull a lot of shenanigans to convince people it wasn't. And I feel like that other shoe is going to drop. And that's why I find it hard to believe that there's just going to be this peaceful transition of power to Biden.
This thing about the propaganda machine and it's definitely intact. And what they're doing to make it even more effective is they're teaching children. They're starting to put this into the public education, and they're doing it to adults as well through activist trainings, how to spot disinformation, stuff like that. They're teaching people how to spot the most surface level, simple tactics of propaganda and lying that you see in the media, which are just a minuscule fraction of what propaganda. They're just tiny little tools, the simplest tools, and what a propaganda machine actually is. A propaganda machine is elaborate, and its purpose is to manipulate and deceive people without people being aware of it, make people believe that things come from within them. Yet they say, look, there's Trump gaslighting. Here's what gaslighting looks like. Oh, I know what gaslighting looks like. Therefore, I know how to spot propaganda, and I'm not going to be manipulated by it. So it's giving these people false sense of confidence in recognizing what propaganda actually is, when in reality, I don't think anybody should be teaching people about propaganda that does not start with a foundation of the history of propaganda going way back, almost to the beginning of civilization, because without that understanding of how it really works, then you are making people dumb.
That's a very interesting point. I will just say, because the beginning of civilization was slavery, and now I think it's transitioned to where it's war, which is a form of tax slavery, just to switch around who's the slave masters in a tax environment. But you're right. It's from the very beginning. And oh my gosh, in that book I read, Against the Grain by James C. Scott, it said that writing emerged as
propaganda,
as tax accounting. Writing emerged purely as a way to keep track of your kind of slaves, that they didn't need it in other contexts.
Interesting. Lenin taught people to read. He made them literate because he needed to propagandize them with the print, and he couldn't propagandize them if they could not read. So he had to give them that base level of knowledge so that he could manipulate them.
I think that's what the Obama phone was. And remember when they swapped out everybody's TVs? If you didn't have an HD TV, they made you get an HD. They're like, well, we changed the rules, so you're entitled to a new TV. It's like, just no.
Yeah.
But that way it gets to everybody. I mean, homeless people have phones.
Which are also TVs, phones.
Yeah. Otherwise, you would have this many millions of people who were not propagandized, who would know, who would wonder why people were wearing masks.
Yeah. Yeah. If it wasn't for the media, you wouldn't know to be scared.
Right.
Right.
The Amish, it doesn't affect the Amish because they don't have screens.
Right. It's the only pandemic that needs its own like marketing and public relations department,
Yeah.
Because it's not happening around you, not as proportionate as it's being reported by the media. And so I was talking about how I thought it was pretty obvious that they as the cases started, or as the deaths started falling off a cliff in like late May and into June and July, and people were just kind of going back about their business, all of a sudden the mask mandate came out, and it's like, why did you do that? It's like, well, we need a visual representation of this disease that you can't see. But if you can't see the disease, so you can't see it to be scared. But if you see everyone with masks on, then you're like, oh yeah, that's right, we're in a pandemic. Now I remember, because it's like the story needed help.
Yeah, that's so true. That's absolutely true. And I just saw an article that said that you can't hear a COVID cough. that the COVID cough is inaudible.
That's ridiculous.
So you might have the COVID cough and you can't hear it. So it cannot be seen. It cannot be heard. It's just invisible, inaudible monster that's trying to kill everybody.
We saw the story yesterday that said you can still even if you test negative, you could still be positive and you could still spread the disease. So even if you're negative, you're positive. You can never. So a negative test is meaningless, basically. And the mask also double serve as a political symbol to recognize Trump versus anti-Trump. Yeah,
that's true. I always think that must be a Trump supporter who's not wearing a mask. And I saw something float by, and I wasn't sure if it was read exactly right because I know some of what's going on in Australia and New Zealand, but it said that New Zealand was putting people in the isolation facilities, which I like to call concentration camps, because if they refuse to test.
So
you can just be doing nothing. And I guess they contact trace you and you're just doing nothing. And you refuse to let them penetrate whatever. And they can drag you away.
The Gestapo of the contact tracers.
I mean, that's just
this is not about a virus.
Yeah.
This is not about science. It's about compliance. It's about creating obedient, scared people that take this bullshit treatment because they think they have to. And it's disgusting, and it's getting test marketed in Australia. And if it rolls out, I mean, if it works there, that I would expect them to export that to other places as well.
Canada, I think, would be next. Did you guys see the Songbird trailer, the Michael Bay movie?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. No, thank you.
It terrifying. I mean, it just reached into whatever gland or lobe that terrifies you, and without any ability to think whatsoever, I was freaking terrified. And I was just like, had nightmares. Then
Michael Bay did a horror movie, or
a horror movie called Songbird about the 238th week of lockdown.
Yeah, that he somehow filmed while everybody else was locked down.
Most of his crap is CGI anyway.
Well, he wrote it, got it green lighted, produced it, and it's out in this short amount of time. And it's like this is the part I was really stuck in my mind. She's on the phone with her boyfriend and you hear the boom, 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 boom. She's like, my neighbor has a fever. I think my neighbor has a fever. And then the neighbor is banging on the door. Let me in, let me in. And the boyfriend's saying, don't let her in. So she doesn't let her in. She gets like dragged off, kicking and screaming down the street, never to be heard from again. And that's what it is. It's like the people are living in tent cities because they're in this isolation quadrants. And my guess is that, I mean, it's meant to terrify people. So it's clearly meant to terrify people. It's not meant to warn you so that you rise up against this oppressive government. It's meant for you to line up for your vaccinations.
Yeah, definitely.
I think.
That's what I got.
Speaking of that, what do you think will happen when they finally roll out the vaccination? Do you think it's going to be, if they try to mandate it and make it, mandatory, that because I feel like people don't really stand up against the mask because it's so simple. You put it on, you take it off, it's whatever, But
I don't think they're going to mandate it. I think they're going to, first of all, they're wiping out middle companies and just anybody who might resist, and they're propping up the oligopolies within industries. So every store is a Target, every coffee shop is a Starbucks, like everybody's in line. Everybody is. And if you watch the Great Reset stuff that Binkley pulled of these globalist CEOs just saying, it's time for people to get in line or get out of the way, and businesses who do not step up will find themselves out in the cold. So I think what they'll have is, if you don't have your Vax Tat or your health passport, I think the Mayo Clinic rolled out, if you don't have proof of vaccination, testing, and I think STDs in the health passport.
I'm out. I'm just kidding.
Maybe you're immune now. Maybe you have the antibodies.
They're called ESGs at the World Economic Forum of the Great Reset. They call them environmental, social, and corporate governance factors, which they use to measure the sustainability and social impact of a company or business, and even say an individual as well. They want to apply it at the individual level from the Great Reset. And what this equates to is a social credit score of sorts. And I think a vaccine would be part of that, if I had to guess, because they do talk a lot about the vaccines. We haven't even gotten to those because there's so many of these Great Reset videos, but they openly talk about how they're modeling the Great Reset, the recovery after COVID, the post-COVID world after China. And they focus a lot on these environmental, social, and corporate governance scores. If that stuff gets implemented all the way down to the individual, because we already see businesses signaling this with a lot of the things they're doing with these social justice measures and these stances they're taking at an individual level, that's terrifying.
And the Real ID is rolling out.
Black Mirror.
Yeah, right. The Real ID, yeah.
So some of this stuff already stands today. Like for some places where you work, you have to have a TB test, things like different kinds of diseases. So I mean, it kind of fall in line with that, yeah. Interesting.
Seems like it to me. And if they're rolling out this Real ID thing where you can't travel in an airport without a Real ID type driver's license or a passport, and if you're and there's signs that tell you pressure your state, there are a few states, and it lists the states and says, after X date you will not be allowed to get on a plane. Now you can always get on a plane with a passport, and I always carry my passport, so I'm not super afraid of it. But the Real ID is probably, I think the implication is it's going to have that information in it, because Bill Gates has that Real ID or whatever it's called 2020, where he wants people who are refugees who don't even have a country to have an ID that includes their vaccination status that can travel with them both in the physical world and online. I just don't even know what that would look like. But that's the kind of thing I think, like, you want to go to a live event, you want to go to school, you want to work at certain places, you want to shop at certain places, you want to travel in certain ways. They'll never, I don't know, they'll never, but I don't expect them to say, sign, you have to register for your vaccination. I feel like they're just going to say, like, the way we can't travel outside this country,
You'd just be limited.
Other places are just saying you can't come here. So the USSR said you can't leave. China said you can't leave. For us, I don't think I could go. I don't think we can go to like England right now. Not because we're told we can't go, but because they won't let us go. I think. But that's the kind of thing.
Yeah. They're also going to tie this to the universal basic income that they've been prepping for a while, where that's going to go out in the form of a Federal Reserve cryptocurrency. Everybody's getting a crypto wallet January 1st of 2021, apparently, from the Federal Reserve. And that universal basic income will have conditions on it. One of the conditions could be papers, please, vaccination papers, records, things like that. Oh, you don't have it? Sorry. I mean, we'd love to give you this UBI, take care of all those bills and things, but you're just not compliant on the vaccine. Okay.
Man, so
okay.
dirty.
Or they'll say, what's your Real ID number? And you'll say, well, I didn't get a Real ID because I need to get a vax, they might even just make it one step removed. And one thing I read in an IMF blog post, like an article that was on the IMF blog, it said that the DigiDollars or the Federal Reserve will have an exchange rate with cash. So it'll be the new currency. And if you hold cash, your cash will diminish in value. So
See, I don't understand what
it kind of messes with you.
Vaccination have to do with how much money, what does it have to do with your money? I don't understand that. It's so crazy that they tie those two together.
Control.
It's just insane.
Yeah, I guess money is like a way of tracking you also. And if you have the DigiDollars, it's easier to track where people are spending and if they're breaking quarantine and spending money and stuff like that. They talk a lot about they want massive transparency of data across the board. And moving it online to the DigiDollar definitely helps that.
And think of how much taxes they're going to be, or whatever, inflation, I don't know. However they're going to do this, they actually got people to stop producing. At the same time, they ramped up spending, and maybe killing old people was a way to get rid of Social Security. I don't know. But there's a real problem here with the kind of tax slavery that our kids who are not represented. So it's taxation without representation. And I started to think, the only thing you can do, the only way to really escape that would be to physically produce what you consume. And they might even reach in and tax that. But if you grow stuff, grow some rabbits and grow some chickens.
Yeah.
And for, you know, if you actually grow stuff and eat it, okay, you have to live like a hunter-gatherer or primitive, like early farm or whatever. But that would be the only way to be able to keep the product of your labor. A lot more labor it would be for sure. Although the first thing I have to say, I said, I always thought this about Obamacare. I never heard anybody else say it, but it is the only thing I ever heard of where you have to register. So so what do you guys have to, when you sign up for the draft, you have to register selective service, but only like a certain subset of the population. I've never had to register for anything, but I have to prove that I have health insurance now or get Obamacare. So the health thing is a way that they can reach into even you living on your own property, growing your own stuff. They can come in and maybe say, well, Obamacare makes you have to have insurance. And in order to have insurance, you have to have the vaccination or whatever. I don't know. But like, I just feel like there's going to be this tremendous burden. And that's when you're going to get that great resets fantasy of I own nothing. I have no privacy and haha, you know, I'm happy. And it shows a picture of this skinny chick in like this white, beautiful cotton shirt, and her hair is kind of wispy. And like the reality is probably the people on the deck of the spaceship in Wall-E, you know, just like totally unhealthy, just eating freaking McDonald's fries with their food stamps, you know, just. Ugh.
That made me think of Hunger Games, and apparently they're making another Hunger Games. Wonder if it'll relate the times.
Yeah, that stuff's all programming.
Yeah, well, you know, I have a buddy I went to college with, and he wound up writing the scripts for a couple really good movies. The Kingdom, which is about Saudi Arabia, this terrorist event there, and he wrote Lions for Lambs, and so these real like political thriller things. And I remember saying like, wow, you know, I didn't remember him going to school for writing. And then I talked to him, and I remember where he went to work before becoming a film writer. He went to work for a think tank, and that kind of uniquely prepared him for writing scripts in Hollywood.
Yeah, that is what they teach at a lot of these activist things too. And I would imagine the think tanks as well. I have some books some of the training materials from a lot of these where they breed these organizers, the Stacey Abrams and the AOCs of the world. And it's almost the same as going to film and write script school, like creating myths, creating narratives, a story arc and the conflict, and except they're just applying it to these characters they're creating for themselves.
Yeah.
And they follow, I mean, it follows the same parallel story arc as a movie does. And we can see it playing out right now on television. The drama is heightened. They have the twists, they have the turns, they have Chekhov's gun. It comes back around at some point when you least expect it. Reality has become a movie.
Yeah. Yeah. And with the Smith Modernization Act of 2012, propaganda is legal.
Yeah.
So all of this stuff that your government promised they wouldn't do to you, they swore that they even made it illegal for them to do this to you. Well, they changed that, and they didn't really make a big deal about it telling you, but they changed the law on propaganda because they intend to be doing a little bit of propaganda. So that's where we're in too. So it's like we're being offered this great reset because of all of these problems we currently have. And we have no idea if those problems are just completely manufactured out of thin air and do not exist in reality. Like the coronavirus situation is a prime example of this. It is like, it actually is a thing. People get it. My mother-in-law got it. She got sick for a week. She's fine. It is disproportionately reported in the media, and about how many deaths we're going to have.
Did she get a positive test?
What's that?
Did she get a positive test?
She got a positive test. Yeah. And then she got it and she felt really bad for a week and lost her sense of taste. And she's fine. And she's 75, you know, she's in that dangerous.
She's lucky they didn't put her on a ventilator.
No kidding. Yeah. but she didn't go to the hospital or anything like that. She
Yeah.
just stayed in bed and watched Price is Right and stuff like that, you know? So, so there's the thing out there, but it's not as
I know
deadly.
people who were sick in January, even December, as early as December. So I don't know if it's supposed to be the same thing. And weird stuff that was unusual. And
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of times when there's a tough flu season, the next year is also kind of bad. And I'm concerned because I've never lived through a winter where I didn't know somebody who was sick. I haven't known a single person who's sick since this whole thing started. You know, that stuff was before we were told about it. But when that starts happening, I think there's going to be, real panic and some hypochondria, will fold into that. And
Oh yeah.
I feel like, unless viral theory is true, if viruses really do cause disease, then we've probably eradicated all viruses by completely eliminating person-to-person contact over the past, well, at least out here. Anyway, but I do assume that people are going to get sick like they usually do, and that is going to really cause problems.
I have a feeling there's going to be a COVID-20 phase 2, and they're going to get a new strand that's a lot more potent to really seal the deal. And Joe Biden's going to go out with that strand. That's my
Oh,
That's a
Whoa,
possibility.
good
Yeah,
one.
another way to bring Kamala in.
Or
Mhm.
Trump.
What was the
They're both
COVID-21
old.
thing, Monica? What was that you found?
Yeah, that was it. It was this leaked thing from Canada, which looked sketchy. The person who sent it to me said it was sketchy. It was sent to me so many times that finally, at one point, I did fall for it. And I was like, oh, I guess this really was a leaked document. But then the Gray America guys were like, because they are in Canada, they're just like, I don't know. You got to look at this more carefully. And I did. I was like, oh, you're right. It's the same thing. It's not attributed. But it had elements in it that were for sure true because they were backed up by some other documents, like they were evaluating what it would cost to roll out isolation facilities. And this was something that was active in October. So they were kind of looking into that. But one of the things that document said was that there would be a COVID-21, that there would be, this is something that they were trying to feed out to us, true or not. I don't know if it's like a trial balloon or what, but that there's going to be a great debt reset. So that they're going, anybody who has debt, they'll just kind of confiscate all assets and forgive all debt. I mean, that's a little tricky. I don't know how that would work. But anyway, that was part of the COVID-21 thing, that like it would just get worse. But I'll tell you, since a lot of the things that they're doing seem to make us less healthy by closing down the gyms out here, there are the fires, you can't go out, the wearing the mask cannot be good for you, putting people on ventilators. I mean, they're still pushing, I think, the ventilators for export now. So I feel like the European wave coming is going to be a lot of fatalities from the ventilators. So I think they're doing a lot of things that could maybe there is a 5G factor. The vaccinations get people that myelitis, which they keep saying is a long-term COVID impact. And it's pretty transparent to me that they have to expect that one of those varieties of myelitis is going to be something that comes up from not only that vaccine, but the flu. So there can be all that adds to the panic. I agree. I think it's going to roll out and it's going to feel worse.
They'll talk about how COVID has mutated and turned into has these certain symptoms, these strange
weird,
but those
unrelated.
symptoms will actually be the side effects of the vaccine. So that while everyone's getting the vaccine and getting sick from it, all they do is say, see, look, more COVID, more COVID, more COVID, more COVID. And you're just like, no. It's from the vaccine, dummies. That's why, so you can almost see the blueprint, for what they're going to do and how they're going to lie to us. And, let's be honest here. If anyone thinks that they're going to turn on their nightly news, their corporate mainstream nightly news, and get a good, honest, objective look at the pharmaceutical industry, you are out of your fucking mind. They get 60% of their ad revenue from big pharma. They're not going to do it. So you can't count on them to out this. So you're stuck as a viewer, as a casual viewer, you're just like making the assumption that since you didn't hear Anderson Cooper talk about it, then it didn't happen. It's not a big thing. Clearly, if it's this big a deal, he'd be talking about it. Well, he can't talk about it.
Right. I think I heard the Grimerica guys talking about, I never thought of this before, that the ads that you see for some pharmaceuticals that have like 30 seconds solid of this will make what you're taking it for worse. Like that's a lot of like, hey, it's for depression, but it could cause suicide, or it's for this non-fatal illness, but it can cause death. People have, it's just amazing. And you think, how is this selling this stuff? I mean, I get it. It's a law. They don't want to do it, but why bother advertising when you've got the doctors in your pockets? Nobody buys this stuff online. You have to go through a doctor who, if anybody here has been to a doctor recently, all they do now is give you drugs and push vaccines. I mean, I'm not going to tell you how old I am because it really is unseemly at this point. But the last time I went to a doctor, she wanted to give me, thanks, dear, 3 vaccinations. I'm like, dude, I've been exposed to everything there is to be exposed to. I have 3 kids. There's no chance. So they pointed out that all of that advertising is to suppress the actual content of the news. Or even, I always go one step further and I would say maybe gives them cover to make it look like that's why they're suppressing it, when really big pharma is so powerful that it's part of the thing that actually runs propaganda anyway. Like the oil and gas interests are so often overlapping with the media owners, and people are like, why would you put out a show that nobody watches? Like, well, they're really not putting the show out because they want people to watch their news. They're trying to monopolize the news so that you always want the wars that subsidize their oil. I mean, that one's even more transparent, I think. But yeah, those ads.
And they spend as much money as Big Pharma spends on those ads. They spend 7 times more advertising directly to the doctors. So
that is where they actually get the sales from. So I don't understand why they put it on the news. I've never liked those ads. I don't even understand what they're for half the time because they're not allowed to actually sell them to you on those ads. It's the craziest thing.
No, it's just people blowing out birthday candles and running in the park.
It's a way for them. It's a beard for payola. The way
it's exactly right. It's the same reason why McDonnell Douglas will take out a big 30-second ad at the Super Bowl. You're like, a lot of people thinking of picking up a retail F-16. Is that what you're doing? But it's like, no. It's about, here you go. Here's
the
some money for
Baltimore
you.
mayor selling books to a hospital. The Baltimore mayor selling those silly books that like had no pages in it. It's like, dude, at least make a good book. Pay somebody $10,000. I'll make you a good book. It would really not be that hard to make it look like you tried.
Right.
You notice how all these books too that have been coming out, everybody who used to be in a Trump administration, they leave the Trump administration and then they have a top selling anti-Trump book that's top selling #1 on this New York Times bestseller list months before it even comes out. Just every single time there's just a stack of books. Yeah.
They do the circuit, like bad stuff about
the
Trump.
Media circuit. Yeah.
Yeah. And everybody loves it.
Yep. Yeah.
This is a crazy world.
I hate the mainstream media. I consider them to be the enemy of humanity. Yeah. And I've been saying that before. I've been critical of them way before Trump, and they're just so disingenuous. It makes me sick. And yet I also like want to slap half the people I come in contact with that just blindly are still watching it. And I'm like, how can you if you had a relationship with a human being and they treated you the way the mainstream media treats you, you would have a restraining order against them, or you'd never call them back. They'd never be your friends. They're pathological liars, and yet you still turn it on and like you believe it. It's just conditioning, I guess.
It's as pathological as what I call, or what is called, the pathocracy, where the government that's supposed to serve you actually exploits you, which is what we have. But it's pathocratic in that you think it's educating you, but it's de-educating you. And like my mom, she would listen to my show. She thought it was cool. It was on the radio. And she'd say, but with you, everything's fake. I mean, everything's fake. You don't really believe anything. I said, no, I believe lots of stuff. But once it hits the mainstream media, then I know that it's either untrue and serving an agenda, or maybe it's true, but it's only there because it's serving an agenda. So I just try to figure out the agenda, because isn't that why they tell you stuff on the news anyways, to learn? So then she, all of a sudden, and she never even liked Trump. We're from New York. She's like, when he went skiing with Marla Maples and Nirvana was there on the slope. I mean, what was he trying to rub it in the face? So my mother always thought that Trump was a bad guy. Then he gets elected and he just loves this country. He just wants what's best for this country. And then you say, but what about this? Fake news. Fake news. I'm like, your own daughter, who you know, tells you fake news. And you're like, yeah, you go too far. And this guy, who clearly you don't know, he has bad character. And all of a sudden, so now anytime he says it's not fake news, she believes it. So he completely made it look like there's somebody watching out that has got an eye on that mainstream media and is going to speak truth to power. Our president is the savior of the, the rebels. I can't. It's just like that little head exploding emoji has like moved to the total front. I used to be like the cringe emoji. Now it's just the head exploding emoji.
I think that's what news articles are going to be. Maybe 10 years from now, by 2030, we're just going to have a sensational headline. You click on the article and it's just a bunch of string of emojis telling you how you're supposed to feel about the headline.
Yep. That's a Black Mirror.
Yeah.
Actually, definitely. If your emoji goes wrong, then they arrest you.
Yeah. Don't have a wrong think or wrong emoji.
Oh my God. Where we go?
Where's your mom on the QAnon theory?
What's that?
I don't think my mom knows about QAnon. I don't think she gets that. No, because I've asked her that, because you have to have the internet for that. So, and that's a really interesting thing. So she just watches the news. So she used to watch Fox, and then she moved into Newsmax. Then she moved to One American News, which is on her TV. Like, she's the best cable ever. And so she gets all that. And I've always thought that like those different tiers are for different kinds of propaganda. So the old people get Fox News, and probably people younger than I am dig into the QAnon thing. But this is what we said, Binkley, and this was probably the most original thought I had on that when we talked to James Corbett. And I said, I really think that our generation, this very narrow generation who was there when they had to give truth on the internet to build credibility for it. So we all saw like 9/11 through the eyes of the internet, and for me, all the way up to the Parkland thing in 2018, like, you could find true stuff on the internet. You could, if you really tried, figure out the truth of things. So we have this like little subculture of this woke generation, but everybody older with the Fox News or whatever, and then the younger people who've just like, it's almost like they have a port in the back of their head straight out of the Matrix directly to YouTube, so that like I watch things and then I hear it in my own house, my kids' friends and stuff, and I'm just like, and they think they're thinking for themselves, and I'm just like, can't you see there's like a wire in the back of your head? Don't you feel that? So anyway, so she is, it's just, I think it's interesting that you asked that question, because she's oblivious to Q, because she does actually use her little tablet to bet on the races. But she doesn't surf the web. She just does it to plug into the track.
Yeah, that lady in Georgia who got elected,
Marjorie Greene,
who they keep saying QAnon crazy person gets elected, dangerous. I don't even think she's a QAnon person. You pointed out that she calls it QAnon. She doesn't even say it right. I just think that she has points of view that they don't like, and they just attribute it. Anything we don't like, oh, that's evil, QAnon, Russian. They just kind of throw it all together. There was somebody that I know, a friend of mine, who he's kind of fallen into, he's very, very reactive to a lot of the stuff that happens in the media and on the news and on social media. And he retweeted a post about her getting elected, and he called her he said something like, I guess that means we can call her and then he spelled out QUNT. And I'm going, that's clever, but also the side that you're promoting, isn't that kind of sexist? Is it okay to be sexist like that? If it's a QAnon girl, is that cool? Like, I don't.
Yeah, because she's a QAnon.
Yeah,
Why, you
I
have
guess
no
so.
sympathy. I mean, that's the answer.
pretty
It's like,
clever.
well, if you're a bad
Yeah.
person, then you don't get the kind of treatment that doesn't allow that kind of views. But I think she cited some Q stuff, and she said, I never saw anything attributed to Q that was untrue or unpatriotic. And people say that is what people say. I mean, it's a very cleverly designed thing, but I have yet to see 40,000 indictments. I'm not holding my breath. I'm not hashtag
Hang on,
trusting
man.
the plan.
It's coming.
Trust the plan.
I didn't get this QAnon tramp stamp for nothing.
You know, a lot of people have those. You know, they
A
do.
lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a sad thing to think about. People actually getting the Q tattoos. I entertain the theory, but getting a Q tattoo is extreme.
Yeah.
Well, we're just
JFK
about out of
Jr.
time, guys. Let's all cast our opinions on what's going on in the future and leave some good positive vibes for all the fellow Americans and everybody else listening. Starting with you, Brad. What do you want to tell the world going into the
I'll
rest
tell
of this
I'll tell the world
craziness?
this: don't give in to the provocations in the coming months. There's going to be people, they want to provoke people, and everybody's an activist nowadays. When everybody's an activist, everybody's trained to have their camera ready or have a friend ready, and to go bird dog and go try to get punched in the face and get if you're not wearing a mask, to get you to do something so they can send it to the media and make you look. So don't give in to the provocations. Respond to the hate with love, and you can't topple a big super global structure on your own, and it's not your job to do that, but you can't control what's right in front of you. And if you can see through the propaganda, then you can actually accomplish more than you ever imagined that you could have. And just be happy and smile, I guess.
Beautiful.
I want to bookend that. You can control the stuff right in front of you. And I would go to the other extreme and say, think deeply about the true nature of power in the universe.
Mm-hmm.
Not just on Earth, because everything between 5 feet and like 60,000 feet is totally beyond our control. So you can deal with the love in your family, and you can try to tap into the cosmic positivity if that's what you think it is. And I think, a perfect circle, the universe is made of perfect circles or spheres. I mean, that seems like a good.
Emotions are contagious.
You get what you
Very
get. We
much
could
so.
just throw that stuff around all day.
Positive vibes, guys. JP, you have anything you'd like to send the world?
Fuck politics. I'm going back to studying ancient history.
I love it. That's great.
JP hates politics.
I do. I'm not a fan.
Dude, you have to read Forbidden Archaeology.
Oh yeah,
Oh
Okay.
yeah. I'll send
Okay.
it to you.
perfect.
Charlie, what do you got, sir?
Everyone be cool to each other, right? We've had a shitty year. People have been cooped up. You don't know what that dude's problem is, but he may have just lost his job, or he may have not be able to see his mom who's in a nursing home and she's dying and he can't. So everybody gets a pass, and let's de-escalate these situations. Don't go on a march with your gun, even though you can. You're asking
Yeah, don't put yourself out there as a target.
you're putting the potential out there, and I just don't want that. I don't want that these maniacs want to divide us up into smaller and smaller groups and get us fighting with each other, so that we're not looking at who's really responsible for it, and it's them. And we fall into their traps all the time, because they're pretty good at setting them, and we don't know to be looking out for them. So we just walk into them. But we're going to have to do a better job of not falling for this, not taking the bait that they put out there when we see literal pallets of bricks. That's what they're there for. They want us to be engaging in this. Don't fall for that. We're better than that. If we don't play their game, they have less control over us. So we need to come together, not divide each other up. I mean, I know half the country is going to be pissed about the outcome of these elections if we get them, if we ever have the outcome of the elections, right? But let's just chill out, because if we don't, and we've talked about tonight some of the scenarios for like things that could kick off a civil war. Like, we're comfortable with war on television because we've never had to live through one in our own country. And let's not start that shit now. I don't want to see a civil war. But the people that are in positions of power, they don't care about us and they will manipulate us. So don't allow yourself to be manipulated, and talk to people close to you that don't think you're crazy, and engage them in dialogue, ask them questions. Hey, what do you think about this? Get them talking. Don't, do the lecture thing, because that doesn't really work. Get them engaged in this, and then, all right, well, let's start thinking about, how, let's talk this stuff out, because we're at a crossroads, in this country. I feel like, with this election and this virus situation, and just how combustible it is, and things can get pretty hairy from here. So let's de-escalate the situation if we can, and not contribute to any more to this insanity of 2020.
That's some great advice.
Very
How about
well
you, Willie? That was really.
Yeah,
So I'm gonna have to go back and re-listen to that.
No.
And so, I mean, because you do have to talk to people. You're right. You can't be aggressive, and it's just so easy. People are really being told to be aggressive, to provoke. I've seen it on the ground, and Binkley plays us the clips of how they train activists. Anyway.
Yeah, their power of the people who want to divide and conquer is dependent on us reacting to the provocations that we are giving to each other.
And they send the kids and the old people and handicapped people. Like, literally, I've seen all three of those things clips saying, like, that's what we're sending out there. It's kind of gross.
What do you think, champ?
Charlie set the standard really high. Like, everybody has a common theme of being compassionate. I think compassion is the most important thing in this crazy time. Grow vegetables and fruits and raise chickens and rabbits, because you're probably going to have to eat them at some point.
But my
Sorry,
bunnies.
Somebody had to say it.
Yours are miniatures, so they're just like
grow bigger
single
rabbits.
serving.
They're appetizers.
Appetizer, yeah.
They're so cute, though.
I'm raising backyard chickens right now. I highly suggest everybody do it. It's not that hard.
You're gonna have so many lucky rabbit's feet. You're gonna be
Oh my
smothered in luck.
gosh. I could probably sell the rabbit's feet, but the little rabbits, I think, are here to stay. Yikes.
You're gonna keep rabbits with no feet.
No, I'm gonna wait. But I was thinking that. I was like, oh, you could actually make keychains out of this. Like, yeah, but what about the rabbit?
No, we
My
don't kill
daughter
the
asked
rabbit,
me that
they
the
just
other
don't have
day
feet.
about a rabbit's foot. I forgot how it came up, but I didn't even know how to explain it. I was like, where the hell did the rabbit's foot come from?
Yeah,
That's a
right.
good luck
Super
charm.
gross.
That's so bizarre.
Weird. I had
Yeah.
one on my
Yeah.
keychain.
I did too. I had a dyed green one.
That's
Yeah,
a
how-
great example of not questioning assumptions that we just are, we've all had a rabbit's foot. We've never been like, this is really messed up.
Totally. Now that there are rabbits in my family, I'm like, man, that is just don't let Blue see that.
That's the first thing I'm doing after this episode is Googling where that came from.
I thought you were gonna get one. I'll send you one of those too. Well,
Yeah. I'll swap chickens for rabbits for you. Everybody plug your stuff before we sign out. And thank y'all again for coming on. I love you guys. This is a lot of fun to do this. And I learned a lot tonight. It's really cool.
Yeah, a lot.
The election is still going on too. As of this time, we don't know who the president is.
you start by plugging your stuff because it's going to be on our stuff.
Oh, thank you. JP, you first.
Yeah, this is Truth or Theory podcast. You can find us on pretty much all platforms.
What's our new platform?
New platforms on YouTube.
Yeah. Subscribe.
Yeah.
We're
Check
visual now.
Check out the videos. You can see all of our darling faces.
You want to see this cool shirt, you got to go to YouTube and subscribe.
And reach out to us. We need more feedback as always. truththeory@gmail.com.
Truth or Theory podcast @gmail.com.
Yep, that one.
Try that one. You might actually get to us. Oh, you want to know about my solo podcast? It's No Limits with E. Willie.
Yep.
Please go subscribe. Only my mom watches that podcast.
I
It makes me
Is that
feel-
on YouTube? Where is it?
It's only on YouTube as of now. It's a visual variety show with pranks, interviews, and other silly shenanigans.
No Limits with E. Willie. I think I saw something that took place in a Waffle House bathroom.
No comment.
Okie dokie. Well,
Subscribe and find out.
I'll tell you what we got because I can say it really fast. We are the Propaganda Report, Binkley, and me, Monica Perez. We do a daily show every single weekday of news of the day from a perspective of truth, liberty, and justice. You can find the Propaganda Report and that particular product, the Drive Time News Blast, on any podcasting platform. And then we have more of that and commercial free and cocktail parties and a lot of other stuff on patreon.com/propaganda report. And we do videos exclusively for Rokfin, which is another subscription thing, but I would say those things are well worth it. Binkley does a lot of research, and that little brain exploding emoji is probably the only reaction that I ever have, but it's always awesome. So there's that too.
And you
If
can find
you're
us on Twitter at Monica Perez Show and at Freedom Act Radio, and YouTube
Yes.
/Propaganda Report, YouTube /Brad Binkley, YouTube /Monica Perez. That
But,
is your
yep,
YouTube page, right?
Yes, but Binkley has pretty hilarious videos. He's interviewed John Ossoff, James Comey.
Yeah.
Did you ever do Donald Trump or any of those guys?
I've interviewed the Trump
Oh.
family.
You hosted the second vice presidential debate.
Yeah, I did. It's a lot, I'm able to get answers out of these people that nobody else can.
Yeah.
Tremendous show.
Exactly. It's more in the line of No Limits with E. Willie.
It's got to be a good one then.
Anybody who's a Propaganda Report casual listener, you got to go get on their Patreon and join their party. What is your party thing called again?
Yeah, the disappearing patron party, because it's so wheels off that we have to completely eliminate it.
Mhm.
It
It's
really
fun.
gets. It
I got
gets
on there with
wild.
these guys one night, and it's a
Yeah.
lot of fun. It's very interactive. So if you want a chance to talk with these guys and have a fun time, definitely go check that out. It's a lot
Yeah,
of fun.
it gets a little crazy.
Charlie.
You can find my podcast Macroaggressions on Apple and Spotify and iHeartRadio and YouTube, and on David Icke's platform Iconic. New book is out, The Controlled Demolition of the American Empire. I wrote it with Jeff Berwick, who is the dollar vigilante. Currently sitting at number 55 on Amazon worldwide. We are excited. It just came out a couple days ago, and foreword written by Doug Casey, who's he's a trip, man. So yeah, you can check that out. And my website is theoctopusofglobalcontrol.com. You can find my first book there in digital format, or you can find that on Amazon as well.
Fantastic books. Tremendous website.
Thank you.
It's fantastic.
Good stuff.
All right, guys. Good luck to the world. We're going to find out in a couple of days what the hell's going to happen.
Exactly.
We're
Right
all staying
on.
optimistic.
Yeah.
Well, but it's always fun. So you got to have the good times like these.
Yep.
Yep.
Just remember,
Thanks,
it's
guys.
out of our control now. We did our part, and we have to let it play out.
Yep.
Have a good night, everyone.
All right, bye, guys.
Y'all
Thanks,
later.
guys.